Alright, let's do something. Let's do something. Wait, let's learn something. Oh, yeah, whatever. Alright. Okay, so I don't know where to start. I'm married now. I got married November the 21st. My marriage was so funny. It was the funniest thing. But like, I'm married and I have a ring now and I have a wife now. Me and my wife don't live together. She lives in another country. She's not a mail order bride or anything like that. She just lives in another country. I mean, she only lives like 10 hours away. She doesn't live that far, but I mean, it's still far. It's still technically 1,000 miles. So, alright. So, I'm glad to have shared that finally. It's none of your business. But, why not? Today we're going to be talking about my wedding. Alright, so, you know, I don't think I'm going to talk about my wedding. It wasn't anything big. It was me and my wife standing in front of a licensed justice of the peace. My mom was there. There was 4 people in one room. So I don't know. A bunch of people sent me a bunch of stuff. I don't even know where to get started. I just don't know. Did I put my hat on? I just got off work, so if I look like shit, that's life. You know, so here we are. Yeah. Alright. I wanna sue the government! Woo! Let's just get him. Let's just get him. I got $30. I want to make a lawsuit. And that's what I came on to tell you today. I didn't really want to come on through the wedding. I didn't want to come on and do any of these videos. I want to file a lawsuit. Oh, I want to get him where it hurts. And I want to tell you, right off the bat, we're suing for fraud. Alright? I'm not even playing. We're gonna take a couple of different groups. At the same time, we're gonna apply, or it's not really apply, but you know, you go and you fill out your paperwork to go to court, right? So that's what we're gonna do. When we go fill out any paperwork, oh, I need assistance or anything. Are you white or are you black? When we go back to the 1800s, they sit there and say, no black people exist. No black people exist. Why are you writing black on a fucking form? You propaganda, you know, you push propaganda on all fucking media forms, white, black, push a caste system, and then we only talk about caste systems in other people's country. We never talk about the caste system here. You work in a restaurant. Money's made by the servers. Everybody gets the trickle-down effect from the servers. Servers make $2 an hour, 15%, roughly 15% per customer that they deal with. I work at a place where servers can make anywhere from $500 to roughly close to $1,000 in 1 week. Right? Caste system. How many white people are servers? Well, if you're in the restaurant business, you ask yourself, how many Caucasians work as servers where you work? How many Caucasians work in the kitchen? Where I work, we have 2 Caucasians in the kitchen. It was 1, but the back server has now demoted himself. We have a white person that's in the kitchen that shouts, I'm white! Around a bunch of yellow people. Everybody in the kitchen is yellow. except for this white person that wants to make sure every person that's yellow knows that he's white. I constantly say, this is a napkin. You do not match this napkin. You're a fucking liar. You're not white. You are bisque. You are off tan. Go buy something that's off-white. Go to the store, select thread, select anything that's off-white. They don't even match that. This is the kind of supremacy that you're dealing with. You got brown-skinned people that are called black. The blackest thing on them is their hair. You're not given the title of a nation because of your hair. That establishes a form of your heritage. We live in a twisted society where everything that you've ever gained has been stripped away from you. Every nation has taken from you. You went into Egypt, Egypt took from you. You went against your blacks. Yellow people enslaved by brown people. What happens? The Greeks enter the picture. What? Half the Egyptians are damn near mixed in with the Israelites. You can't even find a fucking Egyptian today. You got people say, I'm an Egyptian, don't look nothing like I'm going to do on the wall. You got people living in Egypt, don't look nothing like what they look on the wall. You go through Asia. You got pale Chinese. And what do? They mixed in with the Cambodian. Now you got yellow Chinese. The Chinese borrowed their color from you. And you think it's the other way around. Everything that we've been taught is wrong. I just showed you a video. They showed you that all these different nations dug big holes in the ground. Big, deep 12-foot holes. They covered them with sticks and berries. And then when Sasquatches walked by and fell in the holes, they put them in slavery. And it was a delicacy to have a female, because then you could have a sex slave. So they made babies with these sex slaves. Eventually these babies blend in with society. Eventually marrying humans too. Because then the villages didn't have that many people, so every pair of hands was a necessity. So you can see how one thing leads to another. You're down in Mexico. The Portuguese and Spanish come over. War with you, rape you. And then the Mexican race is created. Tell me that I'm lying. You pick any history, you pick the European lie history books, and they won't even tell you that Mexicans exist in the 1200s. What we call Mexicans today don't exist until the arrival of the Spaniards and the Portuguese. And what they do? They stripped you of your land. Now, Egypt did that. You already know Babylon did that. You know the Greeks did that. You know the Romans did that. You know the Chinese did that. That's 5. Who else did that to you? You know, the Portuguese and the Spaniards did that. That's 6 and 7. Did the French do that to you? Where at? Up in Canada. French did it to you too. Europeans did it too. All of them have had a great taste of you. Hundreds of years each bout. All these nations preach Christianity. You don't see it that way, do you? Christ is good. Christ is great. Christ is going to beat up the Creator and save me from my sins so the Creator can't judge me. That's what you really think. That is what you've been taught. That is what you've been trained. I'll bring my dog in. I'll show you I train my dog to shake hands. My dog's a mid-sized dog. People fear my dog when he just smiles. I've never trained my dog to bite anything other than food. Haven't put my sock into a ball and went back and forth with him. My dog doesn't even growl when he's mad. Because I haven't trained him. Push that dog example aside. It's not to insult you. It's just showing you. My dog doesn't do the average things that average dogs do because I haven't trained my dog to be average. Train my dog to be above average. He's supposed to be man's best friend. He should be able to do shit for me. He should be able to be my buddy, right? So I trained him to be a buddy. If I'm sad, he wants to give me a hug. If I'm smiling, he wants to come up and give me some dap. That's how I train my dog. These people do not want us to be trained as humans. They want us to be trained as dogs. That's why we got to go back in history to find out when they took our titles and our lands from us. This is what the Bible's telling us. We turned away from our Creator and we accepted whatever God they gave us. And we didn't stand united. You understand what happened? You've got numerous kingdoms that converge into one empire. So you're really fighting 5 nationalities. When 5 nationalities attack one nationality, an engulfment happens. This one single becomes engulfed and then part of the whole. When you stop resisting, you've been broken. When you stop speaking in your original language, when you stop understanding your origin of culture, and then you have been broken like an animal, like a horse, like a dog, like we watched the man say they broke the Sasquatches until the Sasquatches became dependent. We used to be the greatest, what? Hunters, sportsmen. Now we have become dependent. We have become dominated. I'm asking you to accept the truth. Nothing more. I didn't say carve spears. I didn't say go get bows and arrows and point them at people going down the street. I said find out about yourself. When you find the truth, share the truth. Defend what you now know from idiots. I'm not asking you to lose a tooth. I'm not asking you to lose an eye. I'm asking you to do what you say. When you sit and say to everybody, I am awake, are you? They're awake. They know who they are. They know they are a nation of not. They are not a people. What nationality are you? My daddy was German and my mama was Irish, so you know, whatever you call it, that's what they say to you. They're not even understanding to follow their father's seed. And this is the game they want to play. Because if they don't know who they are, or if they pretend that they don't know who they are, they can just say, well, I need your title. I no longer feel European because I haven't seen Europe in 6 generations, 12 generations. So I'm no longer European. I'm American. Now, you lost a war, you became a slave, then a Negro, and then some of you took African American because you believe the lie that they progressed to in the 1800s, that you're from Africa. They've stolen from you. That's all. We go to war with Germany today, 30 years from now, everything's okay, and we're paying them money because we defeated them. We're defeated in our own land, our titles taken from us, our ancestors, we can't even visit their grave sites. Half of them were burned to death. The other half, what? They buried themselves in mounds, and you're not allowed to even visit. There's no black people where those mounds are. They made sure Caucasus people moved their suburbs to where those mounds are. You are inner city. You've been placed there and marginalized so that when labor needs to be found, you're close. That's how you whistle for a dog, right? And that's how they whistle for us. We've allowed ourselves to become uneducated, educated by our enemies. And if you don't consider them your enemy, that's your problem. They keep calling me fucking nigger and fucking African, when they know very well that my fathers signed the treaty with their fathers, that we would be sovereign to each other, that one could not hold authority over the other. Here, I'll play a game with you. Let's pretend black people aren't the Indians. Let's pretend the copper-colored people are not the Indians. Let's do that for a minute. What did the white people do with the other Indians then? The people that they say are the Indians. What'd they do? They pushed them on the little, small lots of land. Built up big enterprises around them. And they still stab them in the back to this day. Excuse me. Go, if you'd like to, open up a window, go to stuff they don't want you to know, and type in Canada's highway to hell. The computer will assist you. The search engine will assist you. And you'll learn about how the police harass Canadian women and take them on to the different highways. It's cold in Canada. So if you drink and you're drinking, and if you've been pushed in life to be an alcoholic, once you start drinking, your temperature drops. If you live in sub-zero temperatures during the winter, then they're driving them out to secluded areas and forcing them to find their way back to wherever they live. They're driving them out of town on purpose, so they have to walk back through town to the other side of town where the reservations are. When you see the Green River Killer, more about Canadian Indians, Canadian women, and Canadian Indigenous, as they claim, women, all raped by the Green River Killer, raped and murdered. And what happened to those women? His last interview, he said he put them in what? The factory. He sent them to a meat processing factory. They just showed you that even vegetarian hot dogs, vegetarian, no meat, vegetarian hot dogs contain 2% human flesh. So you can tell that people that run the mafia run the meat processing plants. You can tell when women go abducted and they can't find the body, they've been ran through the meat factory process. They've been put in our meat. They've been put and on hot dogs and shit. You don't believe me? Go look, stop the video and go look up the article. Then you use your sense of deduction and put two and two. If it's a fucking vegetarian hot dog and it shouldn't even have beef in there, why does it have 2% human flesh? It doesn't take a lot to figure this out. So, somebody sent me something, and it's like 31 minutes. I've heard the first 17 seconds, and I was like, hey, I should probably check that out. I want to show you one more thing, too. One of the viewers sent me a definition. I've lost it. They sent me a link to a definition, if I can find it. The link to the definition is of 1829. It's 1829 definition of American Indian, and it's out of the Webster's Dictionary, and it tells you the copper colored people. And then it says modern descendants of Europe call their children born on America's soil American. I think it's the definition of American. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's interesting, you know, because you can see what's really going on. You know, these people have been so separated from Europe for so long, they don't know what the hell to call themselves. So now they call themselves you. And every time you're around, they're offended. I mean, think about your culture. No, you can't find it. Think about your culture. Everything that you do, they mock. Remember, rappers started saying, that's how I roll. That's how I roll. And then 9/11, white man's on a plane, let's attack these Arabs. That's how I roll, right? They take everything you do and then turn it into some amazing moments. Think of all the slang that comes up. Remember when Fresh came out? Oh, that's fresh, right? And then you have the first wiggers that surface out of the ground, and that's fresh, my nigga, right? Turn nigga. Now you have white people wanting to call themselves nigga in front of black people, and then getting mad when black people harm them. See, nigger is a derogatory term that's meant to affect the whole race. Let me tell you something. If somebody calls you nigger in front of other black people and the other black people don't say anything, go smack the shit out of the black people first. One person calls you nigger, that's meant to affect the whole race. Nobody hangs white men from cheese and says, got you now, hunky. Nobody does that. No one does that. We got movies, TVs, we got books that show white people hanging black people saying, got you now, nigger. Got you now, American Indian. And what it's all about. It's land theft. Anybody tells you different, they want to keep you stupid. It's all about land theft. Say it with me. Land theft. If a nation has a standing army, if you can wipe out their army, then you can take the land. If it's a joint continent, all you got to do is take out individual countries. You do that with a united power. And this is Columbus Catholic Church and Courts, the ongoing destruction of Native Americans. Now listen to what he says right in the beginning.
Christopher Columbus discovered America. But did he? Let's enter the buzzsaw.
Central Intelligence Agency. It was described by witnesses as...
There are books that go back to 800 that discuss trade routes, that discuss piracy, Piracy wasn't evil then. Piracy dealt with the same thing it deals with now. Trading and not paying taxes. If I trade on the other side of the world, who the fuck do I owe taxes to? And these are what some of the pirate wars were about. Now, when the pirate wars occurred, the pirates had what? Maps? Islands? Captain Kidd had a whole island to himself. How many? Blackbeard. How many other pirates did all this stuff? Let's focus on this. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Stephen Newcomb joins us today. He's the co-founder of the Indigenous Law Institute and the author of a book called Pagans in the Promised Land, which has been adapted into a documentary.
Pagans in the Promised Land. You have to understand, if the first commandment is worship no other God besides the Creator, then worshiping any son of the Creator is pagan. So says the Creator himself. So that means worshiping Jesus is pagan. So that means when armies that promote Jesus come here, those are pagan armies. Keep going? Okay. They were sent by Captain Pagan himself, the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church gave Christians the right to come over here and fight for the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church worships who? The Christians worship who? Catholic Inquisition and Christian slavery. Don't fucking forget it. You didn't go through slavery. You went through Christian slavery.
Called The Doctrine of Discovery, Unmasking the Domination Code. And it'll be
The Doctrine of Discovery. Do you know what that's linked to? That's linked to dumb diverses. As I've been telling you from the start, thank the Most High, thank the Creator, thank Haya for sending the 14, the 13 people and that baby to come and protest the Catholic Church. Because they understood what the Catholics have done to our people with their doctrine of discovery. When we read these books from the 1600s, they say the land is taken. There are people living here. You can't go to a house that you think is empty, open the fucking door and find it packed with people and still preach it's fucking empty. You can't go to a store that you think is closed and walk into it. If it was closed, the doors were locked.
And the author of a book called Pagans in the Promised Land, which has been adapted into a documentary called The Doctrine of Discovery, Unmasking the Domination Code. And we'll be speaking with him now about this Doctrine of Discovery dating back to the Catholic Church and its implication on America. Stephen, thank you for joining us.
Good to join you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, I mean, in the opening premise, I question this notion of Columbus discovering America, which is obviously a very Eurocentric approach to history, seeing that there were millions of indigenous inhabitants. And I think that the point that many people would make is that Columbus and the Catholic Church and the monarchs that backed Columbus didn't discover America as much as they conquered the New World. Now, why don't we start with the question of what is this Doctrine of Discovery that you focus on in your work that most people have never heard of?
Well, Edmundo O'Gorman, a scholar from Mexico who published a book in 1962 called The Invention of America, explained very clearly that Columbus could not have discovered a place called America when a place called America didn't exist at the time that he set from Palos, Spain, or Palos, Spain. And the vocabulary of discovery is problematic for that reason, but for many other reasons. And the focus of my work, after more than 3 decades of research into the history of Cristobal Colon, otherwise known as Columbus, the history of Christendom, history of the Christian Empire, is a focus on domination and dehumanization. Because
did you hear that? Now let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a serious question. Do Christians run the world? Are Catholics their bosses? Let me ask you a question seriously. In white societies, in societies where Caucasians have conquered and become dominant,
my work, after more than 3 decades of research into the history of Cristobal Colon, otherwise known as Columbus, the history of Christendom, history of the Christian Empire, is a focus on domination.
the focus on domination. Let me ask you a serious question. In white societies, they preach Christ. Their own Bible says the world's given into the hands of the wicked. Is the world right now being run by white supremacy? Now ask yourself, because that's the question. Is the world being run by white supremacy? Is there a caste system with white people on top in almost every nation? If you've said yes, I must remind you, you are told that the world is given into the hands of the wicked. I did not do this to you. I am explaining it. This is all I'm doing. I'm not even telling you how to defeat it. It is simple. It is simplistic. It is a choice. You choose daily to participate. And you feed them. God damn it, you keep them fed. Twice as many of you. 13% of the nation is considered dark skin. Just 13%. 38% of the nation is considered Caucasian. 38% of the 13% of black people are on welfare. Only 38. 38% of the 38% of white people on welfare. Do you know what that looks like on paper? It looks silly. Here's a whole towel. Let's pretend that's 13% and that's 38%. There's the halfway mark, right? Right there. Here's the 38% of the white nation. This is 50%. So about here, about 38% is on welfare. Your amount of fucking people on welfare outnumber the whole black race in captivity in America. And then you spend all goddamn day crying that blacks are on welfare when twice as many Caucasians are on. There's more white people on welfare. There's probably more white people on welfare than there are black people in the fucking nation that has survived your fucking Christian torture.
And dehumanization. because I think that those two concepts...
Dehumanization. Blacks will never be considered what in white society? Human? Oh shit! He's telling you, but you don't understand.
Decades of research into the history of Cristobal Colon, otherwise known as Columbus, the history of Christendom, history of the Christian Empire, is a focus on domination and dehumanization. Because I think that those two concepts, those two ideas and the behaviors that go with those ideas explain so much about what happened to our original...
Behaviors to dehumanize. Like hanging and lynching and setting on fire and the cutting of genitals and eating the genitals, because it says what a great thing that Rome did to stop the Druid, what? The Druid rituals of when you defeat a man, you eat from him for good health. Historically, they do the same thing that Romans tried to fucking stop them from doing. They eat your fucking flesh when they defeat you. That's right. You and your wife and your kids are sitting in the fucking house with your little puppy dog and a shotgun, and 8 men ride up in robes, and they call this a fair fucking fight because this is how they conquered you in the first place. 8 nations went up against 1. This is how they do it. You can't fucking get along with anyone because of all the stress that's always around you. You can't make a fucking team. You can't make a posse, but it's easy for them to make a posse. They're not broke. They're not stressed out because they're broke. They didn't spend their money for bullets on lunch while they were out putting applications in. They didn't spend their money for gunpowder on bus fare. Yeah, I know people don't buy gunpowder today, but you know what I mean. They live with what's called white privilege. And at any time your success bothers them, they'll secretly put on fucking hoods and chase you.
Nations and peoples in this part of the world. And when we're talking about the so-called Americas, as they're referred to now, meaning the Western Hemisphere, we're talking about, at that time, a region of the globe that was inhabited by millions and millions of, I will say tens of millions of people, but those people were just divided into distinct nations and peoples of their own origin stories, their own creation stories.
Just like there's different rivers with different names, there were different people groups eating out of those different river sources that were to some extent related to some and unrelated to others. There were many nations sharing this land, and you obliterated their goddamn history for your fucking thievery. Now you all live with white privilege and you're happy and fucking content.
Their languages, cultures, spiritual traditions, their child-rearing practices, their economies, everything that went...
Whoa! See, this guy studies what happened in the past, and he understands that a lot of these groups, even if he doesn't say each of them, a lot of them have their own economies. Oh, they're just trading nuts and berries and shells. He just explained they had their own economies, pluralizing that there were different money systems here, just not a European money system here. So what do you think they mean when they say the 5 civilized nations? Oh, well, they'll trade with Europeans on Europeans what? On their system of trade. See the bigger picture? We don't tell you those 5 civilized nations signed no fucking treaties when they arrived. No, not until war broke out did we hear about these 5 civilized tribes. Excuse me, 5 civilized tribes. They're not, the 5 civilized tribes aren't the people that signed the treaties that allowed the Europeans to stay. See, they're not going to separate these fucking treaties to you. You've got to go into them yourself. You've got to put down the future. You've got to put the future aside. You've got to set down your MP3 player. Set down your Xbox fucking 8, whatever it's up to. Set down your PS. Psst. Put that shit down. These Caucasians are going into your history. Because most of their fathers wrote about it. And they're finding out, oh, we destroyed the Israelites. Oh, we destroyed the Indians and enslaved the Indians. We call them niggers today. Then they're going to act like they're blessing you with telling you the truth about what they've done to you. Ooh, we inherited lies.
Ways of life that people had worked out over countless generations prior to the invasion that occurred as a result of various documents issued by popes in Rome in the 15th century. And
say it, invasion by Europeans that were given, that were issued, bull papacies by popes. So you're still carving it funny.
That set forth and unleashed on the planet a very horrendous legacy that we can look back.
Say it, evil, unleashed evil onto the planet because the world was given into the hands of the wicked. Cannot help that it came in a package of white supremacy. If we choose to ignore this, then we are fools. We deserve to be in handcuffs. We deserve for them to be able to call back up on us because we didn't feel like listening to some white man point his gun at us and say, sit on the concrete, because I told you so.
On now, and the after effects of which we still live with to this day.
Of course. But as far as the actual doctrine of discovery, this was basically promoted from the Catholic Church, correct? The claim upon these lands that had been basically discovered from the...
It's a land claim! Do you understand what he's saying? Look, the bull papacy, you've got to look into dumb diversus. If you've been on this channel forever and you ain't looked up dumb diversus on your own, separate from watching a video on your own, then this is not helping you. Look, you can lead a horse to water. You cannot make the horse drink. You, the viewer, are the horse. If you don't get that, then you never understood that saying. I can lead you to the water. I cannot make you go and start looking this up on your own. When you scroll all the way down, background content, we grant you, kings of Spain and Portugal at the time, don't forget, fucking Europe and France and all, the fucking Dutch, do not forget this links directly to Daniel. We grant you, by these present documents, right? Documents of discovery, are apostolic. Apostolic authority. We give you authority, full and free permission to invade, search out, capture, subjugate. You're still in the fucking middle of being subjugated and you don't even understand. Invaders are in your fucking home. This is biblical. Japhet shall dwell in the tents of Shem. You are Indians. You dwelt in tents called teepees. They look exactly like the fucking pyramids. And you let these Christian cocksuckers black skin and white, come over and preach Christ. Well, capture them and subjugate them. Oh, we'll call them the Saracens because that's the war that was going on in the old world. Not here in the new world. They just called you pagans. King Pagan that sits on the Catholic pagan throne called you pagans. And he says, hey, those 12 tribes of Israel that we stole their legacy from 1,000 years ago, we found them. Now go and capture them again. And any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ. So, when I go into this Bible that's over here, I'm going to go over here and grab this Bible. When I open this Bible, I'm going to open it to the 10 Commandments. This is in the Old Testament. And I start reading, it's going to tell me about Christ and how Christ set up these laws for us to be able to go to heaven. It's going to tell me Christ, Christ, Christ. I'm going to open up to the Old Testament and all I'm going to fucking see is Christ, right? No. That's the pagan God. In fact, let's see. What did people do when they preached Christ? They stole, but they murdered a lot. They coveted, but they murdered a lot. They went to war, but it wasn't just one war, because none of these Indians were grouped together. Really, at any point. None of these Indians were grouped together. So they took war. He's the God of what? So they took war to each individual tribe and defeated them. Let's see. They already had technology on their hands. They came over in boats with cannons and iron horses, blah, blah, blah. And let's see. So it was Spain and Portugal. And they were able to defeat this whole nation. And each time they explain it as it's just one big shot. Well, pilgrims came over. Now they fucking starved and they almost died. And the Indians had to give them food. Had to teach them how to farm. Why would the Indians have to teach these people how to farm? Like there's no fucking farming going over in England or in Portugal or in Spain. They came for war. They meant it from the start. They mean it to this day. There is no in-between. We don't have any unity. So all I'm doing is telling you, prepare to be plucked and burned individually. Because we don't have any unity. And they're united. They're so united, they just go, got one. That's all they do. They pull some metal from their hip, they put it on your little wrists, and they drive you away. You don't even have a car. They give you a ride in their car. The Brotherhood of the Boys in Blue. The Freemasons that came over here with their armies, Christian and Catholic. Their Catholic masters, their Christian dogs of war that they ordered around. And that's what happened. They tell you Christopher Columbus is a fucking mercenary. He's a mercenary. Today, when you hear mercenary, you're like, ugh, somebody who went to the military that fucking professionally kills for money. Christopher Columbus went to jail. He went to prison afterward because he killed too many. There were millions upon millions of people here. When he was done, there were just a few thousand in each area. He sent his ass to prison. Columbus Day forever in every nation of white supremacy. But put his motherfucking ass in jail because he killed them all. I think they wanted to enslave more. And Columbus he denied them that. You know how you get denied? That's how King White Man felt at the time, because Columbus denied him like millions of slaves. Like, they could have built that Tower of fucking Babel like 200 years ago if Columbus wouldn't have fucked up. So, get this. Columbus sent them back. Ooh, the apostolic authority. Full and free permission to invade, search out, capture, and subjugate, marginalize niggers to the bottom of the caste system. Everybody else that's got those niggers' blood inside of them, to give them just a little bit of tone, you're all up above them. Alright, so. And subjugate the Saracens. That's a special word for Muslims. That's a particular type. The Saracens and pagans. Pagans are me and you, because we're worshiping anything else than Zeus. Right? So when you worship Zeus, you're fucking in like Flynn. And when you worship Zeus, Apollo is just thrown in with it, because you always get Ares, the god of war, who's, same fucking people. Alright. And any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ. Listen, let's pretend you were part of a group of Indians that worship the Creator. Let's say you just called him Sky Daddy at the time, because you ain't heard no Christ bullshit or none of that, right? These guys come over and they start mopping up everybody, right? And you can see it's happening. You're calling on the Creator, and the Creator told you, I told you, keep everybody in line. Everybody's worshiping different gods. I told you, as a child of Abraham, for this, all of you would be going into slavery. All of you that survived. So here we are today. If one of us is a pagan, all of us is a pagan. We ought to have a beehive mentality. And any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ, wherever they may be, as well as their kingdoms, their duchies, dukes and duchies, if they got Edomites. I told you Edom was here. In that book from the 1600s, they tell you that Edom was here. It says Edom mixed with the Phoenicians. That's why those fucking Indians are... That Indian that sat across from Farrakhan was so brown because that's Esau mixing with the Indians. I'm telling you, Esau. If Jacob brown skin, Esau brown skin. Esau has fur. Okay? If Jacob can get light, Esau can get light. The fur gives it away. It's fur on the arms. Chest hair don't really count. Bible didn't say they put chest hair on his. They put goat skin on his chest, so when his dad rubbed his chest, it would feel. It said they put goat skin on his arms. All right, that's the phenotype. Don't want to believe it? I don't give a shit. But you are watching everybody's forum now. The more people say Esau white, the more we're stupid as a group. One came out red, not pale, not pink, not with what the Bible describes as leprosy. It says red. I'm almost red. We all know there's red bone people. We all know there's red man. Now, I'm not saying those people are Edomites unless the forearm is furry. There's people that have the same phenotype of white chin that I do. There's some that are lighter than me. There's a lot that are darker than me. Are we all related? We got the same phenotype. Of course, to some degree, yeah, we're all related. How? I have no idea. I think it's through sex, though. Alright. So, this is what's up, man. It says, as well as their kingdom, right? Their duchies, their counties, their principalities, and other property. That's what they came for. Your shit. They wanted your shit. And I'm telling you, the most important thing was seeds and recipes. And to reduce their persons into perpetual servitude. I'm gonna ask you right now, if you're from fucking Africa and you were brought here on boats, why is there a goddamn decree saying go to America and take your property and send you into perpetual slavery? This says your property's already in America. This says your ass is already... Now how the fuck are you from Africa? This is why black people are considered stupid. Because they don't give a fuck about themselves. We're free to read and write. Anything that we can touch. Our ancestors had to learn to read in secret, or they were stomped out. It's hard to think this, but a lot of you are the descendants of people that were just too afraid to read. Some of us are the descendants of people that were able to sneak and read and got away with it. My family encouraged my brother to read. Seeing my brother read encouraged me to read. That's how it happens in my family. In your family, it's gonna happen to a degree the same way. Sometimes a kid just picks up books and nobody else in his family does. If that's not in your family, then that's your problem. You need to will yourself. All of it, is willpower. Nothing else. Willpower. You're refusing to exert your willpower over things. If I put an angry look on my face, the world hates me, but they fucking care enough to walk on eggshells around me. I have accidentally exerted my will upon all that are around me. Now, if somebody comes into my vicinity and they don't feel that buzzkill, then they too have a chip on their shoulder. And that's usually how fights start. Now, we do this accidentally. Now, what can we do when we focus? Now, go back to a little bit more of this.
From Columbus and the other explorers that followed, right, there was a claim basically laid to these lands by the Catholic Empire.
So what's been called the doctrine of discovery, and certainly I've been promoting that phrasing over the years, is actually a doctrine of domination. And what that entails is...
You that have dark skin, you know what it entails. You have been dominated. Now, it is ongoing. Anything you do, you twerk and it's the nastiest thing in the world. Now white people twerk. You get stupid fucking rims and can't feed your family. They get stupid rims and can't feed the family.
Monarch sending forth from Christendom, other not white as Western Europe, representatives who would lay claim to a right of domination over any non-Christian lands that were located in those distant places across the ocean. And when you look at the vocabulary found in Vatican documents from the 15th century, that theme of domination is very evident in the kinds of wording that was used in those documents.
Not discovery, domination.
Documents. So as an example of one of the earliest...
See, when we go to Dumb Diversus, in these documents that are written at the time, this is exactly what he's talking about. What does it say here? Invade! Well, we're just discovering. Invade! Well, what if we can't, like, find... Then search out! Well, what do we do when we do find them? Capture them and subjugate them! This is a fucking tool of war! And you can't see it.
Documentations of that phenomenon. You have the papal document called the Dum Diversus from 1452 that was issued...
What did I tell you? I watched 17 seconds of this and knew I'm watching it through with you. 5-minute mark. He just brings up Dum Diversus. It ain't doom. It probably is. But think about it. Doom. The Americas are doomed. It's the Holy Land and they're going to turn it inside out. Now they done rebuilt the Temple of Solomon. Bigger, so it's not exact. And pagans have control of it and say it's the house of God, but you can worship anything you want. Now tell me that's not the utmost biggest blasphemy ever. You can worship a fucking dog in the pagan house of the Lord.
Pope Nicholas V to King Alfonso of Portugal. And
think I'm joking? You think there aren't pagans that worship that dog-head Anubis? That death dealer? You think they don't worship him? You think they're not going to worship him in the house of God since that opening's already been given to them?
And in that document, the Pope authorized the king to go forth to the western coast of Africa and to any other non-Christian lands and to invade, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens, pagans, and other enemies of Christ.
He's reading from it right now. He can push that Africa shit too.
To reduce their persons to perpetual slavery and to take away all their possessions and property. And that formulation, along with other types of language found in later documents that were issued by Pope Alexander VI in 1493, formed the basis of what's being called the doctrine of Christian discovery or the doctrine of Christian domination.
You went into Christian slavery by their Catholic masters. Call me a fucking liar. And, hey, this guy is reading the same thing. Hey, if you want to hear it without the cussing, all you gotta do is just look it up and read it to yourself. And not be lazy.
Prefer to call it now.
And on the whole, that doctrine of discovery essentially laid the groundwork for the entire political structure and legal structure that then followed within the United States, even because
because we're on Admiralty law. That means law of the water. We're on freaking land. We're on our own soil, and they brought law from another land. So while we're supposed to be serving the laws of God, we're serving the laws of what? Catholicism. What is Catholicism? What does Catholic mean? It means universal. Right? Well, did you know when you say universal, it more so deals with the fallen angels? Because they're the ones that are spread out over the universe. They're the ones that are locked in the planets. They're the ones that fall as comets, as meteors. They're the fallen stars. They're what's meant by universal.
In your book and film, some of the Supreme Court decisions that essentially rested upon the Catholic doctrine as a basis for laying claim to all territory, including all territory of the United States, regardless of the Indian native inhabitants that were here.
Do you understand that? That means somebody sat in the center of Italy and said, there's land on the other side of the world. It is now mine. I want you to get on a boat and I want you to go plant a flag over there. And anybody that tries to take that flag out of the ground, I want you to kill them. Now, see those 3,000 boats behind you? That's your army. And we're going to send you all to different parts. Because we don't want word to travel around in different languages of what we're doing.
Well, right. When you look at the Johnson versus McIntosh ruling from 1823, written by Chief Justice John Marshall, he mentions in passing a papal bull of 1493, but he primarily examines the charters of England, issued to John Cabot and his sons, Sir Walter Raleigh, Sir Humphrey Gilbert, and others. And
Sir Walter Raleigh that came over here for fucking who? King James. See? See how this all plays a part? This fucking King James Bible was written to trick us. They put the good book in the front and the evil book in the back. The testimony first and then the test next. You immediately get tested and you don't even know it.
the language in those documents illustrates what he calls the right of discovery. And that so-called right of discovery was confined to...
You understand what this has to do with? I'm gonna explain this to you real simple. Because we're going to fucking court. I don't care. Okay, let me explain what the doctrine of discovery is. There's this great king. His name was Tiglath-Pileser. And he took these tribes and he carried them away. And somehow he accidentally carried them to a place that's unknown. So that nobody knew where they were. And then these guys figured out a way home. Alright? The story's right here in Mystery of the Mexican Pyramids. And when you get to this case, Mike was just on the phone with me and he brought up Wotan again. He says, 4 times Wotan is said to have returned to his former home across the Atlantic, known as Valum Chivum, which Ordonez eventually identified as the city of Tripoli in Phoenicia, where they say Phoenicia is, on the other side of the world, in the Mediterranean Sea. So they say, the translator said at the time, when they met this cat, in I think 15 or 1600s, this is what he translated from, right? Wait. I'll just read it straight. 4 times Wotan is said to have returned to his former home across the Atlantic, known as Valum Shivum, which Ordonez eventually identified as the city of Tripoli in Phoenicia. After one of these return voyages, Wotan is described as having come to a great city where a magnificent temple was under construction, which was intended to reach to heaven, but was doomed by confusion of languages. In his Constituciones, Núñez de la Vega, this is a different author, was even more specific, saying that what Wotan saw was the Great Wall, the Tower of Babel. I'm on page 79, but when you read this, they find Wotan's writings. Excuse me, that's what happened. They found Wotan's writings in a manuscript written in Quiche. Like Ali Muhammad explained, the Mayan never called themselves Mayan. They called themselves the Quiche with a Q, or some people spell it with a K, but it's spelled here with a Q. Alright? Now, Ali Muhammad wants to tell you that they are Moors, that they are African Moors. I'm going to read to you what's written here. And I've already made a video about this showing that Ali Muhammad completely lives this out. This is the most interesting thing, and he leaves this out. In a manuscript written in Quiché in 1554 by several Maya Indians. So these Indians were still alive. They wrote a manuscript. Its Spanish translator, Padre Dionyso Jose Shone, had this to say: it is supposed in the manuscript the three great Quiché nations, the three great Mayan nations mentioned in particular, are descendants of the 10 tribes of the kingdom of Israel, whom Shalmaneser reduced to perpetual captivity. Whoa, there you go. Where did the fucking pagan king get this from? From Shalmaneser. What did he say? And to reduce their persons into perpetual slavery. That's the dumb diversus. This is a Quiché manuscript that brings up Shalmaneser. Right? Whom Shalmaneser... I told you this is all from the book of Daniel. You're not listening. No, I just like doing that. That's so funny. Shalmaneser reduced to perpetual slavery, and who, finding themselves in the confines of Assyria, Europe, decided to emigrate. The actual text ran, these then were the three nations of the Quiché, and they came from where the sun rises, descendants of Israel, of the language and the same customs. So, the doctrine of discovery has nothing to do with fucking land. It has to do with controlling the lost 10 tribes. Doctrine of discovery. We've discovered the lost 10 tribes. They're in Mexico. Go and get them, senor. That's what happened. History shows us that's what happened. When I keep reading, the Mayans fought against them. The Mayans that were able to escape ran north. When they got into the Americas, they said, "Here, this is the Aztec part." So you can just imagine what happened to the Mayans, right? This is page 147, Mystery of the Mexican Pyramids. 147. This is right after they say when they want to harm the women, they put chili pepper in containers and shoot it up there. Okay? If peons... Here I go. Petty theft could draw 200 lashes. Women were strung up and syringed with chili water. Strung up. You string somebody up upside down. Right? So, where did they syringe chili water? Let me go to the next paragraph. Surviving Indians were left without woods, water, or any way to make a living off the land. In the United States, General U.S. Grant, this is General Ulysses S. Grant, this is later President Ulysses S. Grant. How did he become president? General U.S. Grant announced to investors that 7 million Aztecs, 7 million Aztecs were waiting to build railroads. They're just waiting here to build railroads. They're waiting. They're in what? Containment camps. The Mayans. When you look at the pictures of the Mayans, they don't look like Asians. They look like me and you. 7 million Aztecs were waiting to build the railroads. Who built the railroads in America? Black people. Dark black people and yellow black people. And shades in between. The Aztecs, the Mayans, the Seminoles. They fucked your mind up. You think this is supposed to be told to you in a sweet bedtime voice? Rockefellers, they're still popular today. Rockefellers, Aldriches, Goulds, Harrimans, Guggenheims, and McCormicks. Aren't these like part of the 13 families? Aren't these part of the 300, Committee of 300? Aren't these the same fucking names throughout history, fucking everybody over and over again? Yes. Yes, I think you're right. And McCormick seized the opportunity to buy cheap land and hire dirt cheap labor. You already know these people didn't pay nobody to build the railroads. They made stupid laws to be able to arrest people in mass groups. Thomas Jefferson said that even if a black man is free, the laws won't help him. Slaves built the railroads. Prisoners built the railroads. That's what the prison system is today. Is to keep these men in the system working for cheap labor perpetually. 10 years, they don't come out till they're 45. 25 years later. They come up, they go in for something stupid, they get their criminal education with no experience, they go out and they try to do what they learned, and they have no experience, and they get arrested again, and they go right back into this fucking system. It's a complete series. Because who wants to sit there and make under $10 forever while your wife or your woman is nagging you constantly, adding more and more pressure?
Countries then unknown to Christian people, as he puts it, which means that the right of discovery was confined to non-Christian lands. And in that decision, Johnson versus McIntosh, Chief Justice Marshall makes a distinction between what he refers to as the right of occupancy or possession on the part of the original inhabitants, or the original nations as I prefer to call it, and the Christian people. And when he used Christian people, he was quoting from the John Cabot Charter and many other such charters, and he placed italics on the words Christian people at one point. And the language from the John Cabot Charter says that the Cabots are authorized by King Henry VII to seek out, discover, and find whatsoever isles, countries, regions, provinces of the heathens and infidels, which before this time have been unknown to all Christian people. And when you look at the Latin version of that document, the original Latin version, it uses the word subjugation a couple of times, saying that Cabot and his sons were authorized to go there and to subjugate, subjugare in Latin. And so that is simply another part of the vocabulary of domination.
Right.
And when you...
Okay, so let's just take the word subjugate. Subjugate. Since it's used over and over again, to bring under control and governance as a subject. You see that? To make submissive. You fucking bitch. Subdue. You see what's going on here? To bring under control, especially by military force, to conquer. Are you fucking listening? Listen, let me ask you a question. Now do you see why I'm not going to sit there and argue this shit with people? They don't even understand. They don't understand the military aspect of it. War, baby. The God of war. Subjugate. To conquer. You were subjugated over and over again in this Bible. The doctrine of discovery is discovering the biblical people to what? To ride them like a fucking cowboy rides a horse. You're in the middle of being ridden. That pain, that spurs, getting kicked in the side. You're not getting it still. Do I have to be Caucasian to teach you what happens? Is it okay for me to show you Caucasians? To tell you history? Since I've already brought all this history up before. I've showed you how King James sent Sir Walter Raleigh over here to conquer in King James' name, to subjugate. That means, you understand? This is the caste system. You're on the bottom. That's subjugated. That's marginalized. And then they're on top. Christian slavery. Can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly? It's Ares, the god of war, with Jesus Christ written on top. It's didn't we hear historians already say it's not even a name, it's a title? So nobody could have lived being Jesus. And these people, they got you. They got you hard. You can say they don't have you, but they do. Because nobody's got your fucking back. Because they got your mom. Christ, Christ. Oh, Jesus. They got your dad. Well, if Jesus ain't gonna fix it, I'm gonna have to. They got your brother and sister. Everybody's done something so fucking horrible that they don't think that the Creator's gonna forgive them. They don't think the Creator's gonna be, it's okay. They think, for they don't know, because they won't read. Forgiveness is it just for one people? Is forgiveness just for one people? Will the Creator forgive those who return to Him? Does it not say in Isaiah chapter 2 verse 2, all nations flow unto Him? When you think about it in a third person point of view, it's almost like He's saying He's waiting for all of us. But it's our minds that are not agreeing with what is written because of these people that preach Jesus, because of the military aspect. You refuse to look at the military aspect. You just think it's spiritual, spiritual, spiritual. Christianity is a religion. Christ doesn't separate from it. Christmas doesn't separate from it. Jeremiah tells you to separate from it. You cannot pick aspects of your favorite pagan shit and put it into you and say you're righteous. They have stunned your growth.
You have domination, of course you have dehumanization as a result of the domination.
So in a way you could...
I have not watched this. You've watched as much as I have. I'm sorry that we're watching it in small spurts. But are they ever going to say who they dominated? Are they ever going to say who was put into perpetual slavery? Are they ever going to say who was subjugated? Because those Indians that say they were here first, they got land. And from my studies, the Indians that are written about don't even know they're Indians.
You could portray the conquest of the Americas as a crusade in its own right. It was a continuation of the Crusades westward as opposed to eastward against the Saracen Muslims. It was westward against the pagans of the New World.
Well, it was a crusade, but I stopped short of calling it a conquest. That's why I'm using the word domination, to call the word conquest into question. Because a conquest is a victory and a triumph. And I don't regard it, and those that I work with don't regard it as a victory or a triumph. They're certainly attempting to claim a victory and a triumph, but we're calling that into question by saying that it was invalid to claim a right of domination against our nations and peoples to begin with. And we're challenging that very notion. So that's why we prefer not to use that term conquest.
But, I mean, all of recorded history tells the tales of peoples being conquered by the peoples, right? It doesn't matter if it's the Huns fighting the Romans and the Romans fighting Parthians and the conquest of many peoples in between the two, right? That's the nature of history. So the argument from the U.S. government's perspective would probably be, well, we lay claim to this territory and we had the force of arms to back up the decision, so regardless, you may legally have certain right to the land, but unless you can conquer us militarily, we have the right of might. We have the military power backing our law.
Well, there's no such thing as a right of domination. And so long as the United States is claiming our lands and territories and resources on the right of the first Christians to discover or locate non-Christian lands and claiming a right of domination on that basis, that will always be an invalid claim.
I mean, you got to think about this.
Let's open up America and, anybody can worship anything.
All right, now that's asked backwards from the idea, well, they don't worship Christ over there. Let's go over there and wage war and take everything that they have. They come over here, they take everything, rape everybody, and then they set up their Freemason bullshit where, separates you into church and state so you can worship anything you want. You gotta understand what's really going on. It's really about dominating the lost 10 tribes. This part is not about Judah. This part's about Ephraim.
The nature of the language system buys into legitimizing and attempting to validate that which is wrongful. And as one of the Western Shoshone elders, Tom Wasson, said many years ago, he talked about that which is wrong from the beginning can never be made right because it was wrong from its inception. And so we're saying that the United States using the term...
Now, if these people were the lost 10 tribes, they would have used a Bible verse. They would have said a house built on blood can't stand, or something of that nature. You've got to understand what's really going on. These are fucking Africans. And you can't see it because you think everything out of Africa is black. Because you've been brainwashed.
Terminology of conquest and conquerors and conquered and all that is simply claiming a right of domination. And we challenge the United States to produce evidence that there is any such right of domination. Produce evidence of that. Now they can come forward and create all kinds of ideas, which they've done, but it's up to us to challenge the validity of that, and that's what we're doing. There's no separation of church and state at this time in the United States when it comes to our nations and peoples. And that was demonstrated in a U.S. legal brief submitted by the U.S. Justice Department to the Supreme Court in 1954 in a case called Tehitan Indians versus the United States. And in that legal brief, the Justice Department made as its main argument the contention that the Teton Indians in Alaska did not deserve monetary compensation for a taking of their lands and timber because the Christian nations of Europe had discovered, quote-unquote, the lands of heathens and infidels. Now, what kind of an argument is that for the United States government to make? But it made that argument to the Supreme Court, and in 1955, the year I was born, the Supreme Court upheld that argument, citing to Henry Wheaton's Elements of International Law. And Wheaton, by the way, was the reporter for the Supreme Court at the time of the Johnson versus McIntosh ruling. But in his book, Elements of International Law, Henry Wheaton said that the heathen nations of the other quarters of the globe were the lawful spoil and prey of their civilized conquerors, which is simply more language of domination and dehumanization. So we challenge that, we call that into question, and we will continue to do so.
So, in regards to the reservations policy...
Oh, see? Now, here's the problem. This is obvious to me. These guys will never win in court. They can never win in court because their forefathers didn't sign the first treaties. And this is why. See, the more they skip and leave the so-called black man out of their legal stuff, the more they're not going to win. And this is, see, you can't win in court saying you're an African. You've got to say you're an Aboriginal. All their books say that you're the Aboriginal. This is why when we go to court and say, oh, what is it called? Reparations. When you say, we want reparations for being taken from Africa, they're like, we're not giving you shit because that never fucking happened. Now, if you go to court and say, our forefathers signed those treaties and you know it, and this book and this book and this author that lived at the time proves it, there's nothing they can say. Now, this is aside for fraud. Blatant fraud. You know, I got that one paper around here. That this ethnicity and race identification, all. Let me put this in terms they can fucking understand. This form hangs them. Black or African American, this fucking form hangs them based on their own Supreme Court ruling. I need some people that really want to play ball. We're going after the gold. Terms to focus on is restitution, blood money. What's another one? I've got those filed away somewhere. But look, they're not gonna win without you, and I'm not saying join with them. For hundreds of fucking years, they've kept their mouth shut that you're Aboriginal Indian just like they are. They act like everybody's been wiped out except for these few little bit of tribes. And their land gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And the Catholic Church took their mountain for an observatory. A mining company wants to snatch up land here. The freaking Canadians found out, oh, we pushed the Aboriginal Eskimos onto a diamond mine. So they moved them off of there. And they're not going to win without you. Because you held majority of the land. You subjugated them. The Europeans came over and found out. How the Europeans know? Because of the book of Joshua. Hoshen, Hosea came over here and kicked everybody's ass and set the Amorites packed. Where'd the Amorites go? They went back to the old world. Where'd they go? To what they call Tripoli. Where are the Amorites now? They took Morocco. You don't understand what's going on? Because you keep reading what they want you to, if you're reading at all. You keep reading the New Testament. And when it says stuff in the New Testament that's very confusing or a dead giveaway, you ignore it. When Paul says, we heard rumors that that Israelites were going to the Isles, that's the land of Japhet. So he chased them into the land of Japhet. Let me ask you a question. Japhet is to live on all the islands. Ham and Shem are dividing up most of the solid land. Now today, Shem's people live on a bunch of little islands. Did you ever think about that? How the people from the islands, like all those little islands around Australia, how the people from those islands get off those islands into the mainland, and the people of the mainland, how they get pushed to the islands. Do you know the answer? The answer's in the book of Daniel. I'll tell you what. I got a couple of t-shirts left. All you gotta do is say a name. We're at the end of the video. I'm not gonna record anymore. Here's a question. How did Japhet's people leave the islands and make it to the mainland, and then the people of the mainland, how they end up on the islands? Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, all those islands right there. Now brown people live there. How'd that happen? The answer is in the book of Daniel. You tell me the name, win a t-shirt. First three people to answer correctly. First three people. And technically there's 3 correct answers. There's 3 correct answers. Alright, we'll play a little game. Who's paying attention in class? Bye.